My DoorDash people, how we doing? Your boy C Moto. Been a minute, but been busy, but it's just something that I do want to go over with you guys. I've gotten quite a few questions about certain situations when you're door dashing. For me, most of it is just kind of basic and common sense when it comes to it. But one of the biggest questions, and this is why I say the do nots while doing DoorDash. The one thing is when you're dropping off, people ask, should I ring the doorbell when I drop my order off? Me personally, I say no. You get a lot of people that will say do not ring the doorbell. I don't know what the thing is about the do not ring the doorbell deal, like, and I get it, like if it's 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 11, 12 at night, and maybe into the early morning hours, like I get it at that time. But to be honest, like I get a lot of people that mark do not ring the doorbell, and I don't get it. So just for the simple fact that there may be a very small percentage of people out there that have infant children, or children for that matter, that they don't want to wake up. Like, I understand that part, or whatever it is, or just people are trying to sleep. Like, you don't know people's situations. Maybe they're on a different work schedule or something. Like, I don't know, but it's very surprising how many people I get that mark do not ring doorbell. So I'm like, why do you have a doorbell? Like, what is the whole purpose? Every house has a doorbell. I mean, for the most part. And there's some houses that don't have doorbells, but I'm just like, you actually have one, but you don't want it rang. So it's just kind of weird to me. But they'll say don't ring doorbell, so you just kind of go off of what they say. You leave the order, and that's it. So I lean more on the side of just not ringing the door at all, not knocking, not ringing unless they specify to ring or knock on the door. And in those cases, go ahead and do it. But a good rule of thumb is just don't ring the doorbell and don't knock. The whole thing about it is, like, we're going to take a picture of the food there. They're going to get a notification showing that the food's at their door. They may respond back or not. 9 times out of 10, they don't respond back once you send that confirmation picture to them by through DoorDash. So that's really all the proof that you generally need is taking that picture. If there wasn't a picture option, then that, and we needed to make sure that the orders got to the customers, so that's when we're knocking on doors and ringing doorbells and such. Just like pizza delivery drivers. Pizza delivery drivers, generally, they do not leave the orders at the door. They knock on the door, and you got to come and get that food from them. So that's number one. When it comes to the ringing of the door and knocking on doors, just don't do it. Just have that rule of thumb. Just get used to not doing it, so you don't have to worry about should I not. Number two, and this is just a refresher for the current drivers, and if you are a new driver, just something that you also don't want to do. When you go and you make deliveries, orders or whatever, whether it's a house or an apartment, the idea is to get the order to their doorstep, in front of their door. Again, unless specified to leave at a gate or leave at wherever, the idea is to actually get the food to the door. I say that because at the end of the day, you end up hurting yourself, your ratings, your possible future orders that you could get due to low customer feedback or rating score. And it will happen. They will just leave you a 1-star because you left an order at the gate. And granted, sometimes they don't have codes and stuff like that to get in gates and such. There's just plenty of situations to where we're dealing with that stuff. And that's where the customer service part comes in, where you have to be communicative with the customer. And you need to reach out either by call or text. And at that point, I don't care who I'm waking up, if I call you or whatever it is. Like, at the end of the day, you want to order delivered and you want it to be left at the door, yet you don't provide me with a apartment door number to get into the gate, or your gate is locked and it's at the sidewalk, but you still have your front door up the stairs or something. Like, it's a few different types of scenarios that you can be in, or whatever it is. And the last thing you want to do is just leave food all about and then it just end up pissing the customers off. And it shouldn't be our job to have to go through all that. And it's very bothersome, because these people that live in apartment buildings, or people that have gates to enter their front yard to then get to their porch, and sometimes they're coded, they're key coded. So my whole thing about that is we shouldn't have to be reaching out to get a code if you want it left at your door. So just do your best to reach out to the customer service wise, just to say like, hey, do you have a code? And this is why I send the text messages I send. As soon as I accept the order, I'm already sending them a text message. Hey, my name is such and such. I'm just letting you know I'm going to pick up your order. If you happen to have any kind of gate codes or any kind of way that will hold me up from delivering your order, I would appreciate it if you could please send those details if you are going to be sending them when I arrive. That just kind of gets ahead of the game. I've already sent that message out while I'm on my way to pick up their order. So it's like there's plenty of time for them to get that message. Don't wait until you get to the house and then try to figure all that out. Now, there's plenty of cases where there is no codes or anything like that. And at that point, like, I don't care about the text messages I sent, because in my text message, I just notate that, hey, if no codes are needed, or you did leave the instructions within the app, please disregard this message. And it's that simple, or whatever it is. So they already have it in their mind to make sure that they provide you with a code, and or they're to get ready to come down and get that food from you, because you're letting them know that you're on your way to get it. So that gives them enough time to get ready or whatever it is, so they can come pick up the order for you. If they don't want to give you a code, you got a lot of people that don't want to give you the code, but they want delivery service, and that's fine. They just have to come out and meet you. But in cases where we're leaving orders, just once you are leaving them on the porch, and again, this is just a refresher and a reminder, and it's common sense. Do not leave the food in the front of the doorways that swing outwards. Do not do it. Gauge and look at the door and see if does it have a screen door, or does that door come outward. Do not leave the food on the outside of that door. Leave it to the side to where you make sure that you have enough clearance for the customer to open the door to get their food. Plenty of times have I seen orders that people are leaving in front of doors that swing outward, and there's a soda, or even if it's just food, and their food gets knocked over, and then you wonder why you end up with a bunch of 1 stars or whatever it is. So we have to think and have the common sense to make sure that we're not upsetting the customers. At the end of the day, this is the money that you're making, so you need to do your best to make sure that you're being scored accordingly. And if you're delivering food like that, to where you're just leaving it in front of their door and their food gets knocked over, their drink gets knocked over, then you can't be concerned about why you get a 1 star. So again, these are just the do nots, the do not do's when you're door dashing or whatever it is. And it's just more things to just kind of help you out along the way and remind you of what things not to do. But again, like I said, communicating with the customer, whether it's by call or text, is very big in getting clarification with any type of order. And in a certain case that you are having an issue where, let's say for instance, the customer is saying, hand to me, but it says leave at the door in the notes. So they're not going to be available to for the order to be handed to them. At that point, get on the phone with DoorDash's customer support. On the phone, not text them or anything, and call DoorDash's support and let them know of the situation. So they're then made aware that the customer left as the drop-off to leave at the door, but in the notes they said to, as the drop-off they said hand to them, but in the notes they just manually type leave at the door. That can be a possible scam, where they can say, oh, I didn't get my order, because when you do it that way and you leave it at the door by notes, when you do the hand to customer, if it's originally hand to customer, there is no picture taking. There is no take a picture to confirm that you left the order, because if you're just handing it to them, you're just handing it to them. So there's been plenty of times and plenty of cases where the customer will scam you, and they will scam DoorDash, and they'll call and say, oh, Joe Blow didn't deliver my order, and then there's not going to be a picture taken because it was supposed to be handed to order. So then DoorDash is going to take the customer's word for it because they're not going to just ignore the customer. So they'd rather take the customer's word for it than the honest truth. So you just have to cover yourself. And again, in those cases, if you do happen to get one of those, and I did a previous video on that, but like I said, it's just a refresher and just to remind people because it seems to kind of be happening again. We are in a recession with inflation and all happening. People are getting more desperate and more desperate to save a buck. And that includes scamming DoorDash and obviously the drivers, because people are losing their whole DoorDash account. It's like, I make a lot of money doing DoorDash or whatever it is. I'd hate for 1, 2, or 3 of these types of orders to be delivered and they get it and then they call and report they didn't, and then you lose your whole DoorDash account. It's a lot to go off of a few words of a customer by saying that they didn't get something when they actually did. So to combat that and fix that, that's where, in that case, when they say hand to me as the original selection, and then in the notes they say leave at the door, in those notes, so I would text message the customer and I would say, you picked to hand to customer, but you typed in the notes to leave at the door. And at this point, we need clarification that the order was completed and left at the door. So here's a picture that I am submitting to you showing your front door. And the ones that are scammers, they're not going to like it because they're going to see the picture left at the door that you personally took. So in this case, you're going to have to go out of the app. You're going to have to personally take that picture and then go back into the messaging app on DoorDash and text message the customer the picture of where you left that food, or the picture that you took showing that where you left the food. The scammers are not going to like it because then they're gonna realize that they got a confirmation picture of the house saying that it was dropped off at their address. And again, when you take these pictures, and this is whether you're doing it through DoorDash app or if you're personally taking a picture yourself to submit to the customer, do your absolute best to get the address marker or address plate, whatever you want to call it, from their home. Do your absolute best to get that in the picture. I know sometimes the address markers on houses, they'd be so far from the front door or something like that. Sometimes you can't get it in the picture, so it's totally understandable. At least get the picture of the front door. If you want to take it a step further, you can take one picture there and you can take another picture of where the address marker is. You don't get too many situations in cases like this where that happens. But I just take the extra couple of steps to make sure, even if the address is not by the front door, I'll still take the picture of the food at the front door, and then I'll go to the actual address wherever it's marked on the building, and I'll take a picture there. As well as you got the street marker on curbs. At least here in Cali, we have the street addresses painted on the curbs. You can do that if it's clear enough. And it's just to show DoorDash proof that you were there with that address and left that order as you stated you did. And again, that's only because the customer said to hand to them, but then they requested it to leave at the door. Now, I'm not going to sit and be waiting for a customer if they're never going to come to the door to get their order because they left the notes to leave at the door instead of handing it to them like they actually put on their order. There's probably a small percentage of people that make that mistake and they forget to change leave at the door or hand to customer or whatever it is. Just like you got a handful of customers that forget to change their work address to their home address, and they place a whole order to deliver to their job at nighttime, and they've been closed since 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they didn't realize that they put their work address, and by that time it's too late because you're already delivering the food, and that's it while they live way out. So like I said, everything is communication, just being smart. At the end of the day, once it comes nighttime, just to better help you guys, I carry a flashlight, and it's a pretty decent bright one. It's by Coleman. It's actually a rechargeable flashlight, so you don't have to worry about burning through batteries. The luminescence is actually really, really bright. It's a 2-step flashlight, and this is like this light is kind of like police officers types of lights, and it's really small, as you can see in my hand. Not really small, it's the average size flashlight, but Again, it's by Coleman. It's a camping flashlight, and it's rechargeable. So not only do you have the plug to actually plug up the flashlight to charge it, but you also have a USB slot to then be able to charge a device for a small amount of time, or if you had to try to get a little charge to your phone or something like that, you can use a charge from the battery that's in here. It's got a nice sized battery that you charge, but all you do is twist it out, and then this is the battery here that gets charged. And you can just leave this inside the actual flashlight while you're charging, and there's no need to take it out. You can take it out if you want to, but there's no need, and it just twists and locks on. And that's it. But this has been a very great thing to have at nighttime when you are looking for addresses. It's got me out of a lot of situations where I couldn't really tell the address. Maybe I couldn't see the marker on that house, so I was able to look at the next house over, or the street markers or something like that. And it helps out to where you can keep your phone focused on what you're doing in terms of the DoorDash order, and you're not trying to, oh, let me turn on my flashlight. And more than likely, the flashlight on your phone is going to be crappy. You'd have to be damn near right up on whatever it is that you're trying to shine your light on from your phone to even see what it is. So being that I can flash this flashlight from the street and hit a house and clarify and make sure that I have the right address, it works out and helps me out so much more, so where I'm not getting out the car walking from house to house trying to figure out, okay, what address is what. So this is definitely a good tool to have. Again, it's a Coleman flashlight. It just says Coleman One Source. I don't think they have a part number on it, but you can look it up and see. They're just rechargeable flashlights. I think it was like $35, probably range between $35 and $40, and it's totally worth it. Like I said, you're not buying any batteries or anything like that, because you're just charging this one over and over and over. And I've had it about a year now, and it's still perfect condition, and it fully charges or whatever it is. There's a little button here that when you push it, it lets you know how much charge the actual battery has. When you push that button, there's 3 little dots, and obviously the less the dots, the less charge that you have. Yeah, that's pretty much it come this. So it is a good tool to have, especially for you night drivers, and for you ladies, or whatever it is. You have a flashlight, you can imagine how much more, especially if it's a bright flashlight, how that can possibly help you ladies when you're out delivering at nighttime, because you have a light beam around you or on you just in case, and it'll probably keep a person from walking up on you or doing something to you or whatever it is, customer or otherwise. So with that said, I just wanted to kind of throw them few little things out there to you guys. Again, a lot of this stuff is just common sense and just being smart. At the end of the day, the customers are the ones that rate you. Based on your ratings, will then determine what kind of orders get sent out to you. Because if you're a crappy driver, they're not going to want to send the good orders to the crappy drivers. I don't care what people think about the algorithm. They have an algorithm for a reason. Just like YouTube has an algorithm, just like TikTok has an algorithm, DoorDash has an algorithm as well, and it's based on their rating system, their acceptance rating system. Their acceptance rating system, their customer service rating system. All that stuff matters. You got to always look at it. If it was your company, would you want to know who your top drivers are, or who your drivers that get out there and actually work, and not the ones that are just out there just like, whatever. At the end of the day, you pick and choose what you want. That's your prerogative, the way you want to drive. But just look at it from a owner's point of view of a company. If that was your company, you would want your drivers out there doing the absolute best that they can, and be out there actually driving. In this case, it is an independent contractor job, so again, you can do what you want or whatever it is. So at the bare minimum, they're going to have a rating system just to see, okay, are you on time to pick up the food? Is the customers rating you a good score? Because, if they're not rating you a good score, then obviously your customer service is bad, or whatever it is. Are you arriving late to the customer? All those things make a difference, to where at the end of the day, they do all that math and then determine what type of driver you are. And we don't know to what depth DoorDash can do, or Uber Eats can do, or Grubhub can do, in the sense of making sure that good orders go to good drivers, and maybe the little cheap orders go to the drivers that's messing around or whatever it is. We don't know. So like I said, I'd like to assume that system's in place to show DoorDash who is who as drivers. So with that said, always keep it in mind that we always have to provide a little customer service on our end as well, even as drivers. It's not very much, but the little that you can do or offer to the customer goes a long way, especially if you get that customer again or whatever it is. So I will leave it at that, people. I'm just getting off of work, trying to make it back home, and then I will get signed in so I can do some driving and we'll go from there. So until next time, your boy C Moto, you know what it is. Peace out, people.